Hello everyone, my name is Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about 5 ways to cultivate soul alignment and embodied living in 2025 and beyond. We're in this very potent time, individually and collectively, of the direction that we're going as a humanity. I mean, this year alone, we're seeing the acceleration of robotics, of AI technology, of global wars and climate things happening. There's a lot going on, and we get to choose how we want to interact and define and co-create this future that we have here on Earth. And so as I was tuning into that and tuning into what is going to motivate and drive and direct my aim this year, these are the things that came to me. And so I wanted to share them with you if they would be helpful for you to stay connected to your soul purpose, to stay connected to your service, to what's meaningful to spirit, to the people that you love around you and how you can be there for them and serve them in the best way. Let's continue. And I wanted to give just a little bit of context to this and where it's coming from because it's relevant to our time now. So I went recently and visited the Rothko Chapel, which is a beautiful sanctuary of works by Mark Rothko, who was an abstract expressionist in the 1950s and beyond, but he came at a time after World War I, World War II, and if we know greater global history, there were many more wars, and it was this really collapse and reality of the existential angst of where we were as a humanity, of what we had done to each other and the planet, and reckoning all of that. And in many ways, we're still in this continuation of that today with a lot of other components and things happening that weren't even happening back then. And so what did they do? What did he do back then to face that? And what emerged from that space was abstract expressionism. And particularly for him, he moved into this space of returning to the soul, of returning to transcendence, of returning to what is truly meaningful. And there were a lot of other kind of pieces to that, and I want to explore that in these different ways that we can stay in soul alignment this year. So that's what we're going to be getting into. If you're new here, before we dive in, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell button, and go grab my free soul embodiment meditation down below. And just a little announcement, I have my Sedona retreat coming up April 17th through the 21st, as well as my women's program that's starting in March, which is a 13-week deep dive container into this embodied feminine and how to navigate that in today's world, as well as a sanctuary for us to come together as women. So be sure to go check out those things down below. And now let's continue and keep going down this deep path of soul exploration. So the first thing that I am incorporating into my 2025 as a way of this soul alignment is the devotion to transcendence, which could also be bliss. And this is really important because it keeps spirit alive in us, as well as it reminds us, it keeps us connected to the fact that we are connected to everything. Because in so many ways, we are, right? We're digitally connected to everything nowadays. And we know generally that we're connected to the collective consciousness, but we are intrinsically connected to all of life. Having some sort of practice that continues to deepen our connection with transcendence and bliss is so essential to nourishing. It's literally fertilizer and nutrients for the soul, and particularly at this time. And one of the reasons why it's so significant as well is because when we're faced with these deep energies, these big energies going on in the world in all these different ways, one of the ways that in healing that I learned that you meet these big energies is with other big energies. So if you're allied with those things, with spirit that is benevolent, that is full of grace and life and consciousness, you can do anything, right? And I'm not just talking about like an angel or having a friend to call. I'm talking about big energies, to meet the big energies. And so what does this look like? So when I was at the Rothko Chapel and I'm looking up at the paintings, and I'm talking a little bit faster because this is YouTube, which is kind of fun because I've been doing the slower pace talk on my Wild and Awake podcast, so it's kind of fun to just go real fast. But when I was looking up at these paintings, at the Rothko Chapel, one of the things that happens is you literally have to look up and you have to open your body. You have to open your chest to see, and it brings you in and it brings you up. And that reminded me of a lot of different things. That reminded me of gazing up at the mountains that I grew up underneath, which were always these big, vast granite peaks. That reminds me of gazing up at the night sky, of gazing also like down into the ocean. And in those moments, if you can recall for yourself, what times of life that have you experienced grandeur? And it might also be in dream time or in the unseen realms or on certain plant medicines or in moments of bliss, of connection, of sensuality, of these different things. What is the inroad to you that brings you to these peak opening experiences? And what works for you? What takes you there? And what can you literally plan into your schedule, but also invite into your life to expand into this transcendent space? And in those examples that I was giving, as far as these nature places, it is consciousness also looking back at you. It is interacting with you. It is allied with you. And it is so supportive at this time to remember this connection. So for me, particularly where I am now, looking at sunrise is one of my ways into bliss, into transcendence. Also these wild old growth tea ceremonies that I've been doing as well. Like, even though it's on a microcosmic scale, it brings me into a deep place of connection. So what can that be for you? And a lot of people are moving towards Christianity, and maybe it's through cathedrals, maybe it's through works of art, maybe it's through Jesus, like whatever the pathway is, what is that thing that reminds you that you are a part of something bigger and you are connected to it? And this is important because it's also super key to be a part of social dynamics in this way, to be a part of communities, to be a part of social circles, to be in friendship. And that's one of the reasons why I do these live circles and live retreats, is because it's so healthy and nourishing to have that feedback and that connection. So transcendence is the first way of cultivating this soul alignment in 2025. How are you going to do it? Feel into it. Think about it. The next thing that's so important for this soul alignment is sovereignty. Sovereignty is number 2, because there are a bazillion things pulling your attention, pulling your energy now, because we have access to so much. There's so much noise, there's so much chaos, and there's so many things vying for not only attention, but your own motivation. And so returning your own sovereignty, returning your own spiritual authority back to the core of you so that something else isn't running you. And it might seem like it's your idea, but is it the dopamine that's running you? Or is it a program that's running you? Is it maybe a coping mechanism of something that's running you? How can you return to the core and tune into your heart, tune into your inspiration, tune into your higher self, and move and create and live and make choices from that place? I did a little mathematics on that. Most Americans spend about 2.5 hours a day on social media over a lifetime, which I was gonna subtract out childhood, but now most kids are on devices, so I'm keeping those numbers in there. But it's somewhere like around 15 years of someone's life, if you're spending 2.5 hours a day on social media, will be taken up by that. So just think about that. Like, how can we reclaim our energy, our attention, and then consciously create and consciously engage with those things that are life-giving to us, to the planet, to other people, to our relationships, and really devote ourselves to that in 2025. So that's sovereignty. Number 3, I do not know how to make 10-minute videos anymore. There's just so much more richness than 10 minutes allows. So let's keep going. Number 3 is stillness and silence. This is essential. This is essential to incorporate into your life. This is an energy, stillness, silence, that energetic, that is necessary for the human body, for the nervous system, for consciousness in so many ways, and talked about in so many different frameworks as necessary. And so this is going to be the energy that is the counterbalance to the noise, to the chaos, is the stillness and the silence, which ironically, when you're in that space, you hear and you feel and you sense so much. So it can actually be quite loud. But being in that space and cultivating that, again, is this incredible counterbalance to everything that's going on in the world. And it's important to note that it's a practice. I mean, just getting to the point where you can just completely quiet your mind and sit silent in reverence for an hour. I mean, it's taken me years to get to that place. And one of the things that's important to note is that it's connected to the nervous system, which is connected to our early life. And so that if there are traumas or wounds that happened at that time, whatever mom's nervous system was really became our nervous system. And so if in that space you feel anxiety or a lot of tension, it's important to go back and look at that work. And I do have an inner child soul rekindling process that's super helpful for that. So you can go down below and check that out. But nonetheless, just starting slow, even if it's things that require movement, but you're in silence, like walking quiet in nature or painting or playing an instrument or whatever you're doing, those things are pathways into stillness, pathways into silence. That's why the physical yoga practice happened, so that we could be able to sit with a quiet body for meditation. So being really gentle with yourself, seeing what inroads work for you. Like, what are the things that work for you? It doesn't really matter if it works for other people, but not for you. What practices or activities get you into that space, and moving to the space where you actually relish and are nourished, deeply nourished by silence and stillness, which is where I'm at now, but it's taken a lot of work. So just tuning into the way that that would work for you and making time for it, making space for it. And if there's 2.5 hours to social media, maybe you can carve out a little bit of that time to be in that silence and to stare at a fireplace, or to even just read a book, something that just softens and slows everything down in this faster pace world. Number 4 is resilience. So whether you're sensitive or not, there's a lot going on, and it's the most information, it's the most noise, it's the most stuff that we've ever had at us at one time, and that can be a lot. So knowing when enough is enough for you and turning things off, taking time away, and being really vigilant with that is really important. But also cultivating our etheric bodies, cultivating our energy bodies, our auras, which you can go and watch my other videos about how to do that, is really important, so that we don't feel as porous to all these things coming in. So we do need to set boundaries with when too much is too much, because it can be inundating, but also we can build and cultivate our energy bodies to be able to handle a lot more, as well as our nervous systems to be able to have more capacity with whatever comes up in our lives. And last but not least is number 5. And number 5 is dedicating yourself to that which is meaningful. Returning to the truth that life is precious, that life is so beautiful, and the span of a human life is actually really short. And so how can we make the most of every moment? And yes, there's a lot of chop wood, carry water to life. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of responsibilities that need to be taken care of. But how can we carve out time and energy for the things that are most meaningful to us individually? Maybe those things that we love to do, that we love to create, that we love to experience, and those people and those relationships that are the most meaningful to us as well. And if you don't have meaningful relationships, find meaningful relationships, because that is part of the juice of life. So making a priority that which is deeply meaningful. And at the end of a day and at the end of a life, you look back and you're like, yes, that was rich. Like, I lived a rich and meaningful life, as opposed to looking back and being like, shit, how did years disappear and what was I doing? And that happens. I have years of like, what was I doing? And that's okay too, because that's bumbling along the path of life as well. But how can we consciously create those things that are very fulfilling and nourishing and meaningful, that satisfy the soul, but also satisfy our hearts, our bodies, that feel really good? Like, let's make those things a priority. So again, tuning in, contemplating, reflecting, what are those things for you? So those are the different ways of cultivating soul alignment and embodied living this year. I'd be super curious to know which ones sparked your interest down below and what that thing is that you're going to lean into or start doing or start creating to connect with yourself in a deeper way and develop this richness of life this year and beyond. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you're new or if you haven't, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell button, hit the like button, all those things, and stay connected with me. I'm pretty sure they just took TikTok down, and who knows what can happen with these platforms. So I would love for you to go get that free soul embodiment meditation down below so that we can stay connected. I send inspiring emails with lots of different free goodies and empowering tools. So be sure to get that down below. And I'm back. I'm recording multiple videos today because I'm dedicated this year to being consistent and showing up here as a part of my service and expression. So continue to come back, and sending you lots of love until next time.